All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, as always, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachaha, Kodash, double honors unto the apostles and others of great millstone who rule well. Salutations to you, sincere hope for elect Akim, pushing the word of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, in spirit and in truth. All right, so getting to this lesson, I want to get into two points. One, the homeless crisis that's America is facing, and also the pretty much theft of the land of Issachar, all right, so-called Mexico, all right, being that they have a small hat president, and they're finally waking up to the fact that the problems going on within their country are spearheaded by the small hats. Okay, um, not to mention the cartels. Okay, the cartels are in charge of running that country to a certain degree, and then even at that, the small hats are behind those cartels as well. All that drugs, the drugs being distributed, manufactured and distributed through Mexico, and on up into the U.S. Okay, that's all controlled by the small hats. So I want to pretty much edify on those 2 points. So first, I'm gonna play this segment of this interview conducted by Danny Haifong, and listen to what this Moabite, I believe he's a Moabite, says. All right.
Ultimate crime under international law that controls, the evil of the whole. And just recently, Secretary Rubio came out and said that Iran was violating international law by controlling the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, irony of ironies. I mean, the hypocrisy has, no limits. But coming back to what was said earlier about the state of conditions in the United States, things are not going well for your average American family. I mean, 60% of all families do not have $1,000 to their name.
You hear that? 60% of families do not have $1,000 to their name. That's a lot when you think about it. 60% of families, all right, families, not just individuals, but families, do not have $1,000 to their name. If this was, the 2000s, 10 years ago, things will be different. Even before COVID, people had bank accounts, fat ass savings accounts, expendable money stored away for a rainy day. All right. But those rainy days they ain't even really came yet. And people are broke. All right. So this is going to lead, those conditions, that state, that Americans are in, is going to lead ultimately to, famine. All right, riots, food wars, rationings, things of that nature. All right, and really being that there's, we're to some degree a minority in America, so-called Negroes in particular. But when you take the collective of Israelites, period, in America, Esau ends up becoming the minority. All right, along with all these other heathens, Esau is not a majority anymore. So a large part of that survey that was taken and pointing to 60% of American families being broke. You got a lot of Edomites that you know uh, fit that fit that curse ultimately. They fit that the shoe. All right, now the curses is shifting to the heathen. Okay, the curses that we as Israelites go through, we're seeing real time. Those curses shift to the heathen. All right, so let me play this again. Let me run it back.
38% do not have family. I mean, 60% of all families do not have $1,000 to their name. 38% do not have $400 to their name, which means that even the slightest unintended economic shock to them can essentially send them over the edge and send them into homelessness. And God knows we have no end of homeless in the United States. It's literally a failed state, third world. It's a failed state, as soon as you go out into the urban areas in the United States. And so when President Trump talks about, bombing or returning Iran to the Stone Age, that in and of itself is a promise to commit war crimes. And let it be said clearly that Trump is not the only person to talk about that. That phrase was coined by Curtis LeMay, and then it was picked up by Richard Armitage and James Baker, and Colin Powell even talked about turning North Korea into a charcoal briquette. So anybody who's astonished by that language is not paying attention. But going back to this notion of returning Iran to Stone Age, I mean, to be honest, there's a large population of the United States that is living in Stone Age conditions. If you go to, some of the homeless encampments, people are living worse than they would have been living in during the Stone Age period. And so I think that, I think we need to understand, this fundamental reality that the U.S. as a declining empire is making things even worse for its own people, even as it threatens not only to genocide the Iranian people, but also to devastate its own working class. The other thing I think that we haven't mentioned, but which I regret.
All right, so there you have it. There, he clearly laid it out. How you have President Trump and other previous officials within, certain positions of government that have stated they want to turn Iran back to the Stone Age when you have people here, in America living in worse conditions. You go to Skid Row out in California. Okay, go to downtown San Francisco, certain parts of San Francisco, Tenderloin area. Go to, certain parts of downtown Seattle. Okay. Any city, any major city, and you're going to see a homeless encampment. Go to Las Vegas. All right. You got people living in tunnels. Okay. So, he said people in America is living in worse conditions than in the Stone Age, man. Okay, so this is Haggai chapter 1 in verse 5. I'm going to read this in the NLT. It says, "This is what the Lord of heaven's armies says. Look at what's happening to you. You have planted much, but harvest little. You eat bread, but you are not satisfied. You drink, but you are still thirsty. You put on clothes, but cannot keep warm. Your wages disappear as though you were putting them in pockets filled with holes." Okay? So this is something that we as Israelites are accustomed to. You know what I'm saying? You might store some money away in a savings account, trying to garner a a nice little savings, but you end up getting a damn bill in the mail for some debt all right, that you was not expecting. All right, so now you back down to, paycheck to paycheck. Okay, or something happened, a family member or brothers or whatnot, they're in the jam and they need help. So money that you had set aside, you give that to them. Okay, so this is, like I said, something that we as Israelites have been accustomed to, and now these heathen are just now starting to get acquainted with, living paycheck to paycheck, and they don't like it. Okay, they do not like it. All right, this is Deuteronomy 30:7. It says, "And the Lord Yahweh, thy power will put all these curses upon thy enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee." Okay. In the NLT, it says, "The Lord Yahweh, your power will inflict all these curses on your enemies and on those who hate and persecute you." Okay. So these curses are slowly being pushed on to our enemies. All right. Esau, Edom. All right. The fact that you have the land of Israel over there getting blown up is a sign of the curses being shifted onto the heathen. All right, because for your for your country that you stole to get pelted with missiles nonstop, that's a curse. When at one point in time you were the one that was inflicting all the damage onto everyone around you. All right, that's what the small hats was doing, and now in which they had the U.S. they still do, but they had the U.S. military to pretty much assist them and back them. All right, but now their country is getting pelted with missiles, is getting bombed. They got women and children dying. All right, they're begging for a ceasefire and not getting it. Okay, so the Heavenly Father is shifting these curses onto the heathen in preparation for our uprising. In preparation of our deliverance. Okay, the deliverance of the elected nation of Israel. And the elect taking over. All right, taking this earth and putting it back in order. All right, so let me grab this article, and this is from late last year, November. Excuse me. This is from November 2025, but it's a good article to show the point, to prove the point. And I believe a brother he had in a chat yesterday had posted a video dealing with this. Okay, and so that prompted me to look for this article. So as you see, this is from the Jerusalem Post. It says Mexican Jews. All right, so you can be a Jew and you can be anything. You're a Jew, but you're a Mexican Jew. So you can be a stone cold rat from fucking Poland, and then move to Jamaica. All right, now you're a Jamaican Jew. Okay, or a stone cold rat from Poland, move to Australia, and now you're an Australian Jew. Okay, be a stone cold rat, move to Zimbabwe, now you're a Zimbabwean Jew. All right, be a stone cold rat, move to a good one, move to Madagascar, and now you're a Madagascaran Jew. All right, you see how stupid that is? Okay, so we're just gonna call them rats. Rats in Mexico outraged as graffiti in mass protest caused Claudia Sheinbaum All right, with Scheinbaum, that's a German last name. Okay, a Jewish whore. Let's call her what she is, a Jewish whore. You know, it says Mexico's Jewish community condemned the anti-Semitic graffiti targeting President Scheinbaum during the anti-government protests, calling for a rejection of discrimination. All right, so here you got these small hats complaining whenever they get put on blast for their wickedness. The first thing they want to do is start hooting and hollering and crying. Okay, it says Mexico's Jewish community has condemned anti-Semitic graffiti apparently directed toward the country's Jewish president during an anti-government protest on Saturday. The graffiti painted on the door of the Supreme Court building said "Puta Judea," or Jewish whore, in what has been widely interpreted as a reference to Claudia Scheinbaum. It also included a crossed-out Star of David. The graffiti was painted during a youth-led protest. All right, so it's the YNs, the Mexican YNs, leading the charge. Okay, that this new generation ain't blinded, all right, and stuck on stupid like generations of old. A lot of these young, Latin tribes, they know what's going on. They are on par with, understanding that the small hats got control of everything. The small hats are the ones corrupting their country. Okay, they're aware of that. It says the graffiti was painted during a youth-led protest that responds to rising violence, crime, and corruption, particularly by drug cartels. Dozens of people were reportedly arrested and injured in Saturday's protests. Okay, the Jewish community in Mexico strongly condemns anti-Semitic remarks and expressions during the march, the community said in a statement on Sunday. Well, how about you get the hell up out their land and you ain't got to worry about that? How about that? All right. It says anti. I don't even want to read that, man, because these damn rats always trying to garner some sympathy. Okay, but anyways, they was correct. She is a small hat whore. Okay, look at this demon. Damn small hat. She looked like a small hat. Fucking evil ass. Let's grab this here in Genesis 49. All right, because that land, Mexico, that is pretty much like a. It's like a. What's the word I'm looking for? It's a pivotal piece. Okay, it's like a. Not a. So it's like it's a vital piece of land, man, because it's the bridge between Central and South America and North America. Okay, it's part of North America, yet it's right before you get to the major part of North America being the U.S. Because really, when you think of North America, you think of the U.S. and Canada. All right, Mexico's included, yet it's North America is so vast, so big. Then you got Central America, which is relatively small compared to South America. But Mexico sits right there amongst all that. All right. Now, this is Issachar, his blessing. This is Genesis 49 and 14. It says, Issachar is a sturdy donkey resting between two saddle packs. Okay, sturdy. You know that they're between two burdens. You know, Central America and North America. All right. It says when he sees how good the countryside is. All right, when you look at all of Mexico. All right, and how pleasant the land, he will bend his shoulder to the load and submit himself to hard labor. So them being in that land, you know, as a given that being that you were given that land as an inheritance, it'd be just like, say for instance, your father, leaves a certain portion of his land to, his children. All right. Say you have siblings, and your father, gives a certain portion of his land to each one of his children, when he passes, and it just so happens that the land you were given, it requires a lot of maintenance. Being that you were given that land, and that land being a blessing, you not having control over that, and you got to do what you got to do to till that land, to make sure you can plant crops and harvest, and so it might take a lot more work in comparison to other lands. Okay, so but the land is good though. All right, it's pleasant. Okay, so that's the land of Mexico. It's a vast land. You know, and Issachar being hired, it's in his spirit to work. But the point being that, the so-called Mexicans, Issachar, they built up Mexico to what it is. Not only that, they've contributed to building up America to what it is. Okay, even they've contributed to Central America to make it what it is. All right, along with Zebulon. But despite that, or with that, you got some small hats that just moved to Mexico and think because they're so-called Jewish that they got some type of entitlement issues and a right to criticize the people who built that land up, who received that land as an inheritance. All right, the audacity of the small hats, man, is crazy. Right, it's crazy. So that's Issachar's land, and they built that up. But you got some demon that hasn't worked, hasn't tilled, hasn't planted, hasn't did nothing but sit on their ass and collect welfare money, complain that the puppet that they have set up in Mexico is being called out to be what she is. All right, a small hat whore. Okay, so this is Habakkuk 2:5 in the NLT. It says, "Wealth is treacherous, and the arrogant are never at rest." All right, small hats. They open their mouths as wide as the grave, and like death, they are never satisfied. In their greed, they have gathered up many nations and swallowed up many peoples. All right, which is why you got small hats in all these countries around the world that are trying to control these countries, and people are waking up to that fact. All right, but soon their captives will taunt them. They will mock them, saying, "What sorrow awaits you, thieves?" And that's the sentiment the world over. Everybody around the world, all these countries, the natives of these countries, the indigenous people of these countries, feel like this toward the small hats, man. What sorrow awaits you, thieves? That's why nobody's crying about what's happening to the small hats over in Israel. They committed They were in full-fledged genocide mode against the Palestinians, and now the Most High has shifted that toward them, and now they want some type of sympathy. All right, the rail don't work like that, man. All right, it says now you will get what you deserve. You become rich by extortion, but how much longer can this go on? All right, we're at the end of the road. All right, for Esau extorting the planet. All right, the nations around the planet. It says suddenly your debtors will take action. All right, which the small hats have been able to get away with what they've got away with, being that America backed all their actions with military force, along with the United, or not the United, excuse me, the Federal Reserve being controlled by small hats and utilizing that dollar, a debt bearing note, to put all these nations in debt, okay, because of the use of the petrodollar. Okay, but it says your debtors will take action. They will turn on you and take all you have. They will stand trembling. Excuse me, while you stand trembling and helpless. All right. It says because you have plundered many nations, now all the survivors will plunder you. Okay. You committed murder throughout the countryside and filled the towns with violence. Everywhere, America goes, all right, by way of, command by the small hats, or, all the actions America is taking is because of them being controlled by the small hats. All right, America's a attack dog, and the small hats, are the gremlin, with holding the leash, telling them to sit, get them, you know. And they've wanted to take control of the whole world, man. It says, what sorrow awaits you who build big houses with money gained dishonestly, small hats. I seen a YouTube short yesterday, a brother sent to the chat, where you had a small hat with fake court order papers, or over in the East Coast, talking about he got a court order to come inspect somebody's house, to come look in somebody's house, being that for whatever reason, but most likely because he was trying to take the house. It's crazy, because it's like, this ain't even your shit, man. This ain't even your house, and you coming with some fake ass court order paper to try to fucking rip somebody off, man. Just dishonesty. Dishonest game, man. That's these small hats, man. It says you believe your wealth will buy security, putting your family's nest beyond the reach of danger, and that's the mind of the small hats, man. But that ain't how good did that work over in Israel? How's that working out? Okay, them iron domes and David's sling and David's bow or whatever, those the Patriot missile systems, and none of that is working. Okay, none of that is working, which is why those small hats got to flee. They got to, like a sinking ship. All right, all the rats that was on the Titanic, you best believe they was trying to hop on anything that was floating just to survive, and not drown. I'm talking about actual rats, So that's how the small hats had to get out of Dodge when Israel started getting bombed. Okay. Now they're going to all these other countries trying to set up shop and be demons, which is Argentina is their next headquarters, so to say. All right, that's where they want to set up shop at next, is Argentina. Verse 10, it says, but by the murders you committed, you have shared your name. You have shamed your name and fortified your lives, or forfeited, excuse me, your lives. Okay, so what they've done is going to come back on them 100-fold. All right, the small hats. They're going to be the choicest slave in the kingdom of heaven, and I believe it's going to be for, you know, they're going to be punching bags, man. All right, small hats is going to be, they're going to get their ass whooped in the kingdom. All right. So, I just want to bring that out. A couple things. And Lord willing, this was edified. Till next time, shalom. And it's 10:44 right now. Barakatah Yabashim Yashai.